You got the director of the FBI on this show saying there's no, if there was, nothing you're looking for is on those tapes. Like, what are the negative benefit or the negative effects of this?
This is an explosive area of conversation, and puts my life in danger. So I reserve the right not to answer your question.
Whoa. I didn't expect that. It puts your life in danger talking about portobello mushrooms?
I was the only one that had a DEA license, so we did these conferences collecting all these experts together with Albert Hofmann there, R. Gordon Wasson, Richard Evans Schultes, Jonathan Ott, Terrence McKenna. But I had the license to be able to possess psilocybin with my professor, and so we would have all the psilocybin. So we did these educational events, academic with citizen scientists and psychonauts coming together. What's really different is we just had the Psychedelic Science MAPS conference in Denver, 8,500 people. Back in the 1970s, at any moment, we were afraid that a SWAT team would break down the doors and arrest everybody.
This is what we call a war of experts. And I used to do it all the time. I mean, I represented some of the worst humans that you can possibly imagine on Earth. Literally, the guys that were trafficking children from Mexico into America.
We're doing, right? Of course we're trying to influence hearts and minds. Of course we're infiltrating organizations to try to influence the direction of a government.
Or this classic where he confesses to stealing state secrets.
It's like John Brennan, who was a director at the agency. He talked about the business of the CIA and says, we don't steal secrets. God damn it, of course we steal secrets. That's the point of the exercise, right?
It's like, once you realize the phenomenon's real, then you realize we've recovered artifacts and, biologics or, dead pilots, if you will, even though it's, kind of creepy to even think about that in your worldview. You don't think they were ever, alive sometimes too, right? And I'll leave it at that.
I think the arguments are that predate, that try to push the date back of the construction of the pyramids.
I never heard of this.
You've never heard of this before?
No, it's only new. It's a theories
from
the New Age.
But I saw a debate with you. I saw a debate with you and Graham Hancock, and there was another archaeologist.
That was
hold on. The other archaeologist was saying, if you're saying that something happened 10,000 years ago, where's the evidence of any civilization from 10,000 years ago?
Exactly.
But then you found Göbekli Tepe. So Göbekli Tepe was buried over 11,000 years ago.
That's not true. I never heard about this.
What do you mean it's not true?
It's not true what I told you.
What is not true?
It never happened.
Tepe?
We never discovered this at all.
Wait a minute. Göbekli Tepe's in Turkey. But this was the evidence. Hold on.
No.
This is the evidence in the argument. The argument was there was no evidence of an ancient civilization from 10,000 plus years ago. This is before the discovery of Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe gets discovered known to be more than 11,000 years ago. That changes everything. Because now we know. Yes, it does.
That's changed
hold on. Because now we know there was an advanced civilization capable of a spectacular construction 11,000 plus years ago.
Look at the archaeologists. They never talk about old civilization.
That's not true. Göbekli Tepe is universally accepted as being more than 11,000 years old.
I am talking now about Egypt. I'm not going
No, I
to
understand, but the
civilization.
argument was that there was never any ancient civilization capable of spectacular construction 10,000 years ago.
Investigated this. I took these techniques that they used and I gave it to expertise. And they said, these techniques cannot show underneath a solid rock.
But these scientists are saying they can. Do you know about the Osiris shaft? How they've got
I
scanned?
discovered it.
You did, right?
Yes.
But do you know that they use this tomographic
No,
radar?
no, I am the one who found it. This not.
No, I understand you found it.
His favorite response to any question was essentially because I investigated it and I found it's wrong. When pressed for details, his response returns as the answer is in my book.
I will tell you.
You will tell me how it was built?
Of course.
Okay. How do you know?
How do you know?
How do you know?
I found all the evidence of building the pyramid. We published a book, 1,000 pages. This book is the Bible of the pyramids of.
Many of the sports were designed for male bodies, right? They're optimized for male bodies, right? Basketball, for example, right?
How is that optimized for male bodies?
It's like the the height of the basket, the way that the ball moves around, like if
The way the ball moves around?
If we're gonna say that,
That's a problem, that your news network
was not-
lies.
Well, I don't.
Dude.
What did they say?
They lied
What did
and
they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
They
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was horse.
bunch of
If-
other
if it was-
medication.
And Gupta actually admitted, so Joe pressed further.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You
I-
didn't think that
I
was
did-
You're the
I
medical
didn't-
guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before
But they
coming
did
on
it
your
with
podcast.
such glee.
No,
Yes,
Joe.
they did. I watched.
Just illness. In fact, I brought some numbers. We conservatively estimate that this could require 48 million hospitalizations, 96 million cases actually occurring, over 480,000 deaths that can occur over the next 3 to 7 months with this situation. So this is not one that to take lightly.
Like, this is coming from a lab, and these were credible people from legitimate universities. And then you had some other people that were trying to say, we need to disparage these people, and we need to look at them as if they're fringe conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, I think in the early days that happened in a way
Why would that happen?
I can't comment. I wasn't part of that discussion. I did not get involved with that discussion because
If you've ever listened to the Joe Rogan Experience, you know the thrill of watching a conversation morph in real time. 1 minute Joe is leaning back, eyes half closed, soaking up a wild story, and the next he's bolt upright because something just doesn't smell right. That precise jolt is what today's story is all about. We're diving into the hidden tells, the twitching body language, and the sudden conversational dead ends that tip Joe and everyone listening off to the fact that a guest's agenda might be wobbling under the studio lights. It starts with the now legendary moment fungal pioneer Paul Stamets froze on air. Rogan had breezed through lion's mane benefits, psychedelic therapy, and forest conservation when he casually tossed out a question about portobello mushrooms. Stamets' face tightened, he cleared his throat twice, and then said the topic could put my life in danger. Listeners everywhere felt the temperature drop. Why of all things would a supermarket mushroom spark fear? Stamets hinted at problematic compounds called agarotines, which may turn carcinogenic unless cooked thoroughly, yet his panic seemed far larger than a simple health warning. That last detail matters, because Stamets once worked alongside Stephen Pollock, a brilliant researcher who was shot during a shady robbery in 1981. Evidence pointed at 3 suspects, but the district attorney mysteriously dropped the case, and later a bootlegged police tape allegedly caught officers discussing their own involvement. Files vanished, witnesses stayed silent, and Stamets learned a terrifying lesson. Some knowledge is worth silencing. No wonder he shut down the portobello question faster than Joe could lift an eyebrow. Jump forward to June 2025, when FBI director turned podcast guest Kash Patel sat across from Joe. For nearly 20 minutes, Patel insisted there was nothing left to discover about the Epstein saga. Everything was tidy, he claimed. Then, live on air, Elon Musk tweeted that Donald Trump's name lurked in sealed documents. Rogan read it aloud, and Patel's expression crumpled like wet paper. Here was the man overseeing the Bureau's probe suddenly stammering that he'd rather stay out of the Trump-Elon thing, a line so thin it practically snapped. Not every compromised guest waves a red flag so blatantly. Former CIA officer Mike Baker has appeared on the show around 20 times. He's genial, self-deprecating, and loves admitting half-truths with a wink. Yes, the agency topples governments. Yes, they swipe secrets. Isn't that obvious? The tactic is called a limited hangout. Spill small confessions to earn trust, while the darker stuff stays buried. Baker now runs Diligence LLC, a security outfit many insiders call a quiet agency pipeline. Whenever foreign policy gets messy, Baker dutifully drops by to offer the reasonable spy perspective, and Rogan's sharp listeners swear they can almost see the word like glowy glowing over his headset. The UFO whistleblower David Grush came armed with the opposite approach: total disclosure. He told Congress, and then Rogan, that the US has retrieved non-human craft and even biologics, dead pilots from somewhere else. Under oath, those claims land heavy, but skeptics note how perfectly the story cloaks advanced military projects. Joe himself wondered aloud whether Grush was a useful pawn, fed dramatic intel to distract from cutting-edge drone tech. Either way, confusion serves the system. If nobody can tell which Marvels are human or alien. Classified projects stay invisible. Sometimes the tension isn't about national security, but academic pride. Dr. Zai Hawass, Egypt's longtime antiquities chief, came on expecting softball questions about pyramids. Rogan instead poked at theories that the Sphinx might be far older than textbooks say. Hawass dismissed everything as New Age nonsense, claimed satellite scans can't penetrate bedrock, and waved off Göbekli Tepe's proven 11,000-year age like it was gossip. Each challenge sent him retreating behind the phrase, "It's in my book," turning a once iconic explorer into a gatekeeper guarding dusty orthodoxy. Entertainment figures can fall into the trap too. Adam Conover built a brand on ruining misconceptions, yet when Rogan asked him about biological advantages in sports, Conover flailed. Basketball was optimized for male bodies, he said, then laughed because even he heard the nonsense. Unable to cite studies, he kept promising he'd look at the research later. The debate exposed how quickly fashionable narratives crumble without a teleprompter. Medical experts aren't immune either. During a tense exchange with CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Joe confronted the network's claim that his doctor-prescribed ivermectin was horse dewormer. Gupta eventually conceded the label was misleading, yet the next night CNN doubled down. The contradiction highlighted how corporate messaging can override on-air honesty, even from its own medical authority. Dr. Michael Osterholm offered a different flavor of discomfort. Early in 2020, his pandemic projections were scarily accurate, but when Rogan later pressed him about lab leak possibilities, Osterholm sidestepped, citing ongoing investigations he couldn't discuss. Consistency can soothe an audience, yet evasion rings louder after 3-hour conversations. What ties these moments together is Joe Rogan's uncanny radar. He's not a scientist, a spy, or a historian, yet 3 hours of open conversation can unravel any facade. The instant a guest's story clashes with his curiosity, the studio air thickens, hands fidget, eyes flick left, and the audience leans closer, sensing the shift. That visceral suspense is radio gold and digital dynamite. It keeps clips trending, fuels endless subreddit speculation, and reminds everyone that authenticity can't be faked for long. Of course, not every twitch means malice. Sometimes a guest just phrases something poorly, or nerves take hold under the bright lights. But when a pattern of evasions, half-truths, and strategic amnesia emerges, Rogan's listeners note the timestamp and start digging. In today's hyperconnected world, a single raised eyebrow can launch thousands of amateur investigators. So what should we, the audience, take from these compromised encounters? First, never outsource your entire worldview to any one voice, even a beloved podcaster. Second, cherish long-form dialogue. Its unedited sprawl exposes inconsistencies sound bites can't hide. Third, recognize that power, whether financial, political, or reputational, nudges people to protect their interests.